Welcome back to the Hogstye, your absolutely unofficial source for all things related to the world of the Washington Redskins and the NFL. Former Redskins defensive coordinator Jim Haslett is bringing his football consultant skills to the Penn State Nittany Lions. We thought Herschel Walker was going to get a tryout with the Atlanta Falcons at age 53, but it turns out Dan Quinn was just trolling him. At 54 years old, Charles Mann graduated from Strayer College this weekend. On a sad note, former Redskin great Dick Stanfel passed away Tuesday at age 87. Finally, Tom Brady has appealed his Deflategate suspension. Surprise! All that and more on the Hogstye.
It's the Hogstye.
Welcome back to the Hogstye. I'm not Sean Conti this week. I am your backup prom date, Kelly Worrell. I'll be taking the hosting duties for this week until Sean comes back with us. With us, as always, we have Steve Thomas.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Alex Zeese.
Hey.
And our favorite funny man, Robbie Duncan. Robbie?
Uh-oh.
Well, we had Robbie Duncan moments ago. We may have Robbie Duncan again.
Hello.
Hey, there we
Robbie.
go. We have Robbie Duncan with us. You know who we could use today? Dick Stanfel, who could probably still play guard for us, given who we have at guard. So, our deepest condolences to the Stanfel family. So Tom Brady appealed his Deflategate suspension. Apparently it took 11 hours, and he was there for the whole thing, which surprised a few people. Steve, what do you think about Tom Brady and what's going on there?
Oh, Lord knows what's going to happen. I told you guys when we talked about this before that I think Roger Goodell is in a tough pickle with the case because, they paid, millions of dollars for the Wells report, and the idea of just exonerating Tom Brady means that he's going to throw the Wells report in the trash can because Wells concluded, by the standard established by the CBA that Tom Brady did bad things. And so from what I understand and read, it didn't look like Brady really said anything different than he'd already said. So, that there may be a pity reduction. We don't know what Bob Kraft and Roger Goodell have talked about, so, they may reduce it by a game or two, but at the end of the day, I think it's very unlikely that the suspension is going to get, or not, the suspension is going to get lifted. I think that's very unlikely. And of course, the media is all a Twitter over whether Brady will then sue. The CBA actually requires a grievance to be filed first with the NFL that goes to an arbitration panel, and courts like arbitration, okay? If you arbitrate something, it's very unlikely that a court is going to then play backup prom date to the arbitrator. If there's if you can allege that the arbitrator did something wrong process-wise or didn't follow the right procedures, then you may have a case, maybe. But what a court will never do, well, almost never do. You never say never. No court wants to second guess an arbitrator's conclusion. So it's not like Brady doesn't like Brady files a grievance. He doesn't like the grievance. Well, okay, fine. We'll just find 12 friendly Boston area jurors in a courtroom and go see what they think. That's not really how it works. He can file the CBA does allow him to file a breach of contract action, so he could go that route. But if you have that, what he needs to allege is that the NFL somehow did not follow one of the clauses in the CBA, which is a little bit tougher case. Where it's hard to get to is to get a court to substantively review the merits of the complaint. It's a long shot. I think he's got a lot of hurdles to get that far.
So basically, they just wasted
Steve.
12 hours of their time on something that nothing's going to change.
It's not a waste, and you may see it reduced a game or two. I think it's unlikely that Brady actually gets to a courtroom and gets to the point where a court, whether a judge or jury, says, "Oh, you're innocent." You're innocent of all this stuff. Very unlikely. Robbie, what'd you have for me?
Yeah, I was going to ask because I was listening to the Tony Kornheiser show just the other day.
I'm sorry.
And I was just happened to be in the car at the time, but he had a guest on there. I forgot her name, but she was talking about how the Ted Wells report I mean, I don't want to dwell too much on this deflated balls case, but what she was talking about was that they were found that it scientifically cannot be reproduced what happened to the footballs, and it was basically disproving or discounting Ted Wells's report, saying since it can't be scientifically recreated, then the evidence is kind of just tossed.
You know, honestly,
anything about that?
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of garbage in, garbage out. To be perfectly frank with you, you know, the report, the science part of the report was done by a company called, oh gosh, it starts with an E. The name is escaping me right now. Something like Exercent, but that's not it. It started with an E. Anyway, there was
Exxon.
No, it's not, definitely not Exxon.
Exoff.
There was a company, there was a scientific expert hired by Wells to do the science on the inflated balls. Now,
Bob Science.
Far be it from me to question that or not. My response to what you're saying, Robbie, is that unless this lady has a PhD in,
in balls.
She was
she has a PhD in balls.
What was she, Robbie?
She was some credible news source. It worked for some company or newspaper, but I wish I remembered her name.
So a reporter, though, not a.
It was a reporter.
Basically, it's the word of the unremembered name reporter against the word of the unremembered name
of some jackass on the Hogsty podcast.
I will, before the podcast is up, I'm gonna remember what the name of the expert company is. But again, you know, it's I don't put a lot of credibility in the media nitpicking what a retained expert says. You know, if Brady and or the Patriots hired their own expert, you know, that's one thing, and we can report on that. But you know, I'll believe it when I see it. You know, legal experts, you know, that's, you know, we do the process, we leave the experts to the expert reports to the experts. You know.
Yeah, but there can't be that many ball experts out there. I mean, that's
but there's a lot of air pressure experts, though.
Tom Brady ought to just drop this. There's, take your 4-game suspension. Don't do this, Tom.
Take it like a man, right?
Also, he's going to spend a lot of money if he wants to try and get into a court. And like I just said, you know, courts don't like this kind of thing. Courts don't like, you know, arbitrated.
He's got the money
process. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but do you really want to spend millions on this? He could spend.
He doesn't care.
He could spend $1 million on this. Easy.
I mean, you're wasting court time, and courts are backed up.
Courts don't like this kind of thing. Yeah. So anyway, point is, he could file a grievance with the NFL, and then that goes to an arbitrator, or he could try a breach of contract action. You know, either one is a long shot, believe me.
Well, he's at the end of his career, so the NFL can't hurt him too bad. I mean, the worst thing they do is kick him out at, what is he, like 36?
38.
Something like that. Yeah.
38.
Is he really 38?
48.
Yeah, he and Peyton Manning are like 38, 39, I think.
If I were him, I'd go, you know, hibernate with Giselle somewhere and roll around in his millions. But that's me.
Roll around in Giselle and her millions. So listen,
he'll wipe his tears with $100 bills.
Years old. Let's talk a little bit about Herschel Walker, who's 53 years old. So Herschel had made the statement. He's an MMA fighter, by the way. So be careful what you say, because he's an MMA fighter and he's Herschel Walker.
And he's friends with Donald Trump, so he might have political clout.
He's got power.
You're fired.
He's got power all over the place. So
Herschel Walker is friends with Donald Trump.
He was on The Apprentice, I think.
Oh, yeah, because that's kind of, you know, Felix and Oscar from The Odd Couple there a little bit, isn't it?
Could well, but I don't know Herschel too well. But so here's the background of the story. He went ahead and said in an interview that he felt like he could probably still play football. He's not the first guy to say this. He's probably actually correct. You know, some of these guys, he can play football. He just can't play football the whole game, right? He's an older guy. He's still strong. Right. He can fight in the MMA. He could play football. He just doesn't have the stamina to go the whole game. But he brought up a good point, which is you don't really have one running back who plays the whole game anymore. You go by committee, and he really feels like if you gave him the football, he could still knock a few guys over and make some guys miss. And he's probably right. So Dan Quinn, the new and still learning about the media head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, said, well, we've got room for him if he wants to come on down and try out. So then everybody got all excited about it. And then Dan Quinn said, no, I wasn't actually serious that Herschel Walker should come try out for the Falcons. It's not going to happen. and then we all got sad.
Don't the Falcons love washed-up old running backs? Hasn't that been their MO for the whole Matt Ryan era?
Kind of, yeah. Has anybody lost their mind? I mean, Herschel Walker can play at his local Muni League, okay? He needs to go down to, the YMCA for wherever he is and sign up for an adult flag football league. That's about as much football as he needs to play. It's ridiculous to think a 53-year-old man could play organized tackle football. That's just
Steve,
crazy.
I gotta just for your own good, I gotta remind you, he's an MMA fighter. So you be careful when you talk trash about what he can't do.
Listen, I'm not afraid of him. If he wants to come find me, now
Here we go.
Come find me. I dare you, Herschel. Come on.
There we go. So you heard it here first.
See me in the ring.
I'm safely behind the anonymity of a microphone here.
Now, I will say, just as a tangent to this, there was that story a week or two ago that Michael Jordan was still saying almost the exact same thing, that he could still play in the NBA, and he was apparently playing secretly against guys on his team from time to time.
That's just as crazy.
He's beating rookies one-on-one.
That's ridiculous.
So, no, he beat, I can't remember the kid's name. They drafted a guy down there last year, and he's a very good player, and Jordan beat him in a one-on-one game. And some of the NBA guys were saying that's not a huge surprise because
he's Jordan.
Because he's Michael Jordan, and he can whoop anybody for 10, 15 minutes. It's after that he's no good to you.
Well, yeah, and we all remember what he was like with the Wizards that last couple years. He gave you a good 10, 15 minutes. He was great off the bench. That's
I might
all
take
tongue out sometimes.
If I had to sign an old man to play on my team, I might take Reggie Miller, or somebody like that who's a shooter. I think you could, if you were a
John
really
Stockton.
good out. Yeah, Well, I don't know if his 3-point percentage is quite as high as Reggie Miller, but
He can still pass the
Miller.
ball.
Ray Allen was contemplated playing this year. I'd take a guy who maybe is a shooter over somebody like Jordan, who, you forgive me here, but Jordan is not perfect. Okay, he was not a tremendously great outside shooter. He played above the rim for a huge part of his career. That's what leaves you when you get older.
But he transitioned his game. He became an outside
all the Jordan
guy.
fans are crying now.
I mean, it's not like the dude is shooting over 40% from the 3-point range. So
Well,
I mean,
no,
come
but
on.
the guys who are doing that, though, for the most part, that's what they do, right?
That's
got
my
your Tim
point.
Legler's out there; they stand out there and shoot the ball.
I'm not trying to
and
degrade Jordan
yeah.
here. I'm just saying the guy is like 50 years old almost. He's
Well,
not going to
and
play in the NFL. He can't,
I
or in the
guess
NBA. He can't play in the NBA. That's
the
crazy.
Jordan thing's besides the point. I mean, football in general is a sport where you can't do this. I mean, baseball, guys play into their 40s. It's not crazy. So the idea of someone coming back in like 50 years old and being able to play a little, I wouldn't be shocked by that in baseball. If you keep in shape.
Who was the
You don't
pitcher
even need to keep in
recently
shape. You have a big, fat, giant gut, and still, if you can swing the bat, you're good to go.
Well, there was a pitcher a couple years ago who was almost 50 who was still pitching. Gosh.
The guy
the
in the
Mets?
Dodgers.
No. No, he it wasn't the Mets. Oh, now it's going to bug me.
Yeah.
But he
Fernando
was
Valenzuela.
yeah, no, but he wasn't a fastball pitcher. He was, he was locating his pitches. He was a
Accurately?
curveball guy, change
He was
up.
he was one of those guys who threw like the crazy slurve pitches and stuff like
Yes.
Eckersley, wasn't it?
No.
Damn it.
That's you're showing your age. You're showing our
Moyers?
age. Dennis Eckersley. there you go. That was it.
Was it Moyers?
Yes.
Jamie Moyer.
Jamie Moyer. He was like 48 or something, and he was still pitching.
Don't know who that is.
that.
Jamie
Yeah, you can
Moyer.
get away with it in certain sports, I feel like. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at soccer, guys play in soccer for a long time, too.
And I'd ask
Goalies
why.
do.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying.
Why are they playing soccer? Just generally, why are you playing soccer?
Because
Why are they
you
playing-
make
Why
a
are we
lot of
people
money
watching
to kick a ball?
And
Baseball's
why are
not
people
like-
watching
As-
soccer? More importantly,
As Hank Hill said on King of the Hill, Bobby, I didn't want to tell you this, but soccer was invented by European women while they were outside playing, and while the husbands were inside cooking.
Bobby?
Dang it, Bobby!
I'm sorry, but it just soccer is the most god awful boring sport to watch I can just possibly remember.
Hey,
It's just-
in soccer news, the U.S. women's team beat China 1-0 to advance to the semifinal of the World Cup. For everybody who's not Steve, who cares?
See, you put me to sleep just with that headline. Okay,
That's true. Well, U.S. women, American women, and Chinese women running around together, Steve.
Wow.
That's
Enjoy
the
that.
problem. It's like soccer is okay, our team's going to kick the ball around for a little bit, and then our team to turn to kick it around a little bit, and then the game's going to be a 2-0 blowout. After a god awful amount of time.
If you have no idea what you're watching, just like American football, if you have no idea what you're watching, it's a bunch of people running around like idiots.
Hey, at least some people are getting hit in American football.
People are getting their
The thing
shoulders
that bothers
hit.
me is there's hardly ever any scoring.
That's
It's
the
just
point.
like,
You have to,
soccer,
you
I
have
missed
to
it again.
learn to appreciate the game. So it's the game. It's the way that the Dutch style of play versus the English style of play. If you have no idea what that means, you're not going to enjoy watching it, right? But if you do know what it means, then and you're listening to this, and I say Dutch total football against the English firing it up the wings and crossing it, then you know what I'm saying, and it's absolutely beautiful. And we have probably lost Steve possibly for the rest of the episode. All right.
Oh, Jesus. Can we
Steve,
please
let's
move
talk
on?
about something that you care about. Let's talk a little bit about David Amerson. So David Amerson, he came into the league. He had a lot of good physical skills. He was touted to be the kind of guy who could step up to become a number one cornerback. He didn't. He struggled. He struggled with angles. He struggled a little bit in coverage, and then he got supplanted by Bashaud Breeland when Bree came in as a late round pick and showed up Amerson and played better than him. So this year, Amerson has been challenged. He seems to have answered that challenge. We're hearing headlines coming out of Redskins Park that coaches are impressed by David Amerson's focus. He's studying, he's watching film, he's making strides, and he's playing better. Steve, do you think that this is something that's gonna continue through the regular season for David there?
Hey, I hope so. He's got some strengths. He has some weaknesses. His strengths, he's got good size. He's got some good strength. He has a little bit of speed. I think he has a long way to go in man-to-man coverage. Like a cover zero situation or just a straight up man coverage situation. He's not good at that. He wasn't good at that last year. He wasn't good his rookie year at that. I certainly hope he develops, but I think personally his future may be as a long-term nickel guy where he doesn't have a lot of responsibility on every single set. Where he's a starter out there. I think his skill, unless something changes, I don't think his skill level at particularly man coverage is going to allow him to ever develop into starter. Robbie, what do you think? You're our X's and O's guy.
It's good news to me that he is actually making all these strides and preparation and work and all that. The way the old saying goes, you practice hard and you practice how you're going to play.
That's a hell of a saying.
I stumbled on it.
I'm teasing. You'll practice it next time.
I kind of
you'll nail
lost
it.
my train of thought.
And then there's the other old saying, kids don't do drugs.
There you go. This is your brain on drugs. All right, so there's the old saying, Robbie.
Damn it, Bobby. Again, you practice hard and you work at it, on the field and all that. It's going to transition into how you play in the game. That's not the saying. That's just
fact.
Yeah.
For a position like corner, it's just my opinion here, obviously, but I think that there's only so far you can go with practice and development with a corner because so much of it, when you're reacting to what a wide receiver is doing, so much of it is instinct, number one, and physical ability. When to make cuts, to keep up speed wise. I think there's only so much you can learn unless you have the actual physical ability to do it. I don't know if Amerson has it.
Well, I think he has the physical ability. I mean, when I looked at Amerson when I think back to the plays he did where he did really well, when the ball is thrown, if he's in the right area, he can get his hand up and break up the pass really well. The problem always seemed to be that far too often last year, he was getting beaten and he was out of position. So, that is stuff you can work on. You can train a guy to make sure you're sticking with your receiver, sticking to your assignment. It sounds like he was breaking off from his assignment way too often last season because he wasn't sure okay, I've got my assignment, but does the other guy, and stuff like that. So
yeah, be fair though, the whole defense looked like they didn't know who was covering who and what their assignments were. The whole defense looked completely out of sync, and I think that Amerson's got the skills. He was one of these guys in college. Excuse me, I believe he was one of the guys we picked up who was leading number 1 or number 2 in interceptions, the NCAA.
Right.
He's got the talent. He has the skill. He didn't make the transition to the NFL. I don't think he took it seriously. I think that what Robbie was saying earlier about practicing the way you're going to play, what comes out on the field is what you put into it in practice. And I really believe that if he does keep that focus and he keeps that work up, I think that he can make that transition from the NCAA to the NFL. And I don't think that he's a slot corner. I think he's. We were saying when we did our defensive backfield breakdown, the other episode, we mentioned that on nickel situations, the current plan is for Breland to move to cover the slot guy and for Amerson to come in and play that outside. So I think the coaches see that he has the talent. If he's got the will and he's and he can put the will and the ability together, we could see some good things. Steve?
Well, yeah, that's not what I said I thought was going to happen. What I said I thought was going to happen was that Culver and D'Angelo Hall were going to be the starters, which forced Breland to go into the slot role, and then Amerson is fighting for time. That's what I said. Now, I don't mean to imply that I'm not trying to be too negative on Amerson. All my point is that I think the guy has a ceiling. That's not nearly as high as some others. I think he's not. I don't think that he showed the talent to be a lead corner, for lack of a better term. And so for that reason, I think he's, if we can make a good nickel corner out of him, I think we'll be doing okay. That's my point.
Well, I think that's fine. You need a nickel corner. Every team needs to have somebody in that spot for a long time. What it reminds me of a lot is with a lot of corners. Now, okay, we got spoiled when we had guys like Champ Bailey and Darrell Green. They came in and they were pros from the get-go. But a lot of corners need a couple years to kind of develop and mature, and not just on the field, but in their practice habits and things like that. I mean, you look at a guy like Smoot or even D'Angelo Hall. It took D'Angelo Hall 3 teams to kind of get it all figured out that you've got to be serious about all this stuff.
Yeah, but D. Hall had the ceiling, He was a first-round pick. He had blazing speed when he was younger. He had all the ability in the world. And with D'Angelo Hall, it was a maturity thing. It was a learning the game thing. I'm not sure that David Anderson has that.
Very similar with Amerson.
I don't think Amerson has the physical, natural ability that D. Hall
He's a second-round guy, right? So they thought something of him.
Yeah, but D. Hall was a top of the first-round draft.
Well, sure.
He was the first corner drafted in the. He was the first corner drafted that draft, if I recall.
No, nobody's saying that David Amerson is Deion Sanders, right? He could be a starter in the NFL.
He's probably better than Deion Sanders when he was with the Redskins.
You just hate Deion Sanders.
Do you like him? Come on, I'm still bitter.
You know what?
That.
I do like Deion Sanders. I don't blame the guy. We had a whole bunch of guys roll through here in the '90s that were just collecting a check. Am I going to sit here and blame them?
Actually, but yeah.
Well, whatever. You know what I'm saying. We had a whole bunch of people come here, collect a check, slack off, party, and walk out. And Deion was one of them. And
Alex, you need to insert a gong sound or an X or a buzz in post-production. After Kelly's opinion there, because
when I get the mixing board, maybe I'll buy a sound effects board to go with it.
Just buy a gong. There's so many uses for a gong in your home.
In all seriousness, Kelly.
Yes.
How is it that Deion Sanders did anything positive for us while he was here? He is one of those guys that was collecting.
I remember him making one interception.
Well, and
there's one thing positive.
He was kind of flashy, but. No, he didn't do a lot of good for us. I'm just saying I don't blame the guy for coming and collecting a check. That's his job.
Oh, I don't blame him for that at all.
Was he a hard worker? No. But did he need to be? No.
I mean, I don't blame him for collecting a check. My biggest memory of Deion Sanders is that he wore a burgundy suit with a gold tie to his first press conference.
I think Jim Zorn did too, but then he got the team colors wrong.
Yeah,
he was wearing a maroon and black.
No. I think he was wearing burgundy and gold, but he still got the team colors wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Jim Zorn. I think maroon and black. Jim Zorn was done with the fan base from that moment on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, sure. Yeah, it's hard to come back from. The poor guy should never. He had no business being a head coach. He had no idea what was going. I have no idea what's going on. He has nothing. Comparatively, Zorn had 2 years. We're going to go into our second year here of Jay Gruden, and Jim Zorn's second year was miserable. It was horrific. He wanted to leave. They wanted him to leave. It was over and done with. I'm feeling a lot better about Jay Gruden. I know, Steve, you're not necessarily a huge Gruden fan.
No,
I'm not a huge Gruden fan either. But I'm hoping for the best. What's on your mind, Robbie? What do you got?
I was going to bring it back to David Amerson, actually. We went from Amerson to Jay
This
Gruden.
is easily our most ADD episode. So the listeners know, we're recording this at, right now it's almost 11 o'clock for Robbie and I, but this is very late for for us compared to most shows.
Punch drunk, sleepy
So
heads.
we're a little lethargic, I guess is the best way to say it. But what I was going to say about Amerson earlier is that being a number one corner, which I think he could be, he needs to be used a lot like what Seattle's doing with Richard Sherman. He stays on that one side and he doesn't move from there. He has the sideline to his advantage. He can force a guy in, to run his routes more closer to the sideline and maybe run him out of bounds. So yeah, he needs to be in a good system and he needs to learn that system. So him doing all this work in the mini camps and all that, putting in the film work and film study and all that, it's a good positive sign of his maturity. And if they can utilize him in that sense in Richard Sherman's style, I think that would be putting him in his best, putting him in the best way to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, and look, if it works out for him, great. Maybe he would be better on the edge when he's got a sideline. Maybe he's not. Maybe the limitations I'm talking about would cause him to not be nearly as good covering a slot receiver, where you have to worry about a break to both sides and everything else. Maybe he's better, on one side with the sideline out there and playing in the flats on the cover 2.
Yeah, that sideline is definitely an extra man. And when I was saying earlier, by the way, about him moving out to out to cover the wideout on the nickel, that was something that I had read, I think, in the Washington Post. It wasn't a thought that came from this group here. I read that somewhere.
I've seen that too. In the weekly Q&As on the Post, that gets asked every once in a while.
Yeah, it might have been one of those mailbag kinds of questions. But the other thing that I was thinking about, though, was does anybody happen to know? So we've got Perry Fuel now coming in as DB coach, and he was, I guess, he was doing some defensive coordinating up in New York. Does anybody know if he's one of those guys who keeps their players on specific sides, or is he the kind of guy that's putting a cornerback up against a receiver to follow him?
I don't
That's
know
a
what
good question.
he is exactly, and they had a lot of injuries on their secondary over the last couple of years. So
Not enough.
I want to say that they stayed on their side. I don't think they were really moving that much.
I think so. I think you're right, Robbie, and because I don't remember anybody really moving, and I don't remember the Giants having a cornerback that's talented enough where you would want him shadowing a number one wide receiver all the time.
No.
D'Angelo Hall has been the guy who's been doing that for us for years, and he is, at least at one point in time, maybe not now, but at one point in time he was an elite talent in the NFL, and I don't think the Giants ever really have had that, or at least not for a long time.
No.
Not since Jason Sehorn.
Jason Sehorn
you're
was
going way back with that one.
Yeah,
Well, they did have last season Prince and Mukamara, who was really starting to take a leap in his play, and then he got hurt for the rest of the year. So I think that kind of put a wrench in it. But he was really having a really solid season. He probably would have been a Pro Bowler.
I think Perry Fuel's mission in life this year is just to make sure these guys actually know what they're doing. Like Kelly, you said earlier, my goodness, it just seemed like these guys last year had no idea what the system was or how to do it or how to play it.
They were lost.
And so if we can get that far, he'll be a hero.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about Perry Fuel is as much as we are excited to have him, we got to keep in mind, Giants fans are kind of excited that they got rid of him because that defense they had was pretty rough the last couple seasons.
Yeah,
and
that was
I
nowhere
have a
near
lot
as
of
rough
family
as
in New
ours,
York. And yeah.
I think we just had
was
the
nowhere
moment
near as-
where all four of us spoke at the same time. That was pretty cool. Not bad, guys. That's hard to plan.
The Giants' defense was nowhere near as rough as ours, though. So I don't care what the Giants thought of him. If he can get our secondary in general up to league average, he's a rousing success because, Raheem Morris, nice guy, he just didn't cut it in that regard.
It's terrible. The Giants, though, they didn't have talent in the defensive backfield, and that was because they, for quite some time, they were putting all of their defensive focus on guys like Tuck and Strahan and Osi Umenyiora and all these guys. They had their whole identity was, to have a fearsome front four. And then let that, let that have that ripple effect to make sure that everybody else, doesn't have too hard a time because the quarterbacks are always going to be in trouble.
Yeah, we haven't had a fearsome front four or front three, in a long time either. Quite honestly.
Well, that's actually a fantastic segue, though, Steve. We haven't had a very good defensive line. Honestly, we've had a lot of terrific players on the defensive line, but this was during the snatch and grab years of Dana Stubblefield and guys like that who would come in and get that paycheck. But my favorite defensive line was always Charles Mann, Darryl Grant, Dexter Manley, and Dave Butts.
Sure.
Going back then. One thing that we didn't mention earlier on during the headlines, because it's not necessarily a huge headline, but if anybody's a fan of HBO's Ballers, if you happen to watch on Sunday, then you probably caught an eyeful of our own Desean Jackson showing his acting talent, which upset a ton of people because most people are really think it's very, very important, especially in the off season, that RG3 be the object of everybody's hatred for being a diva and doing things outside of training camp. And so Sean may be showing Griff up a little bit in grabbing some of the limelight, that he's not supposed to have.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably Robert's fault somehow.
Robert did this.
And people need to not be upset about any of this. I mean, I don't know what their shooting schedule was, but it's not like he missed OTAs to shoot, 5-second scene with The Rock on that show. So, let's not pretend that's what's going on. He probably shot this, months and months ago.
Yeah,
and it's one scene.
He had 1 minute of screen time.
People
it's
who
The
Rock telling him buying a Rolls Royce was a dumb decision or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. If anyone out there thinks this is remotely a problem, I think they need to
there's going to be
their definition of problems.
And by the way, I can't tell if I'm going to love this show or hate it because it's kind of like Entourage with football right now is what it's kind of feeling like.
Yeah, it is.
So
I just can't believe they got The Rock to do a TV show like that. I mean, the dude's a huge movie star. What's he doing on an HBO?
HBO, man, they get the ratings.
Well, we could go into this whole what's going on with TV and film right now. Basically, to sum it up, the less talented actors are all doing movies now, and more talented actors want to move over to TV because they see that TV is more willing to take risks with character development and stuff like that, and movies aren't.
A lot of these guys are following the money, but you have some people who already have the money and they're interested in the right projects, right? I thought it was really cool. Yeah. One of the things, I don't know, quite why we're talking about this, but I have some thoughts on it, and that's I'm very excited to see House of Cards. Kevin Spacey, who is one of my favorite film actors, bypassing television, going directly to a Netflix show, and I think it's kind of cool that that people have an opportunity now to publish direct to the internet. I kind of like that a lot.
Okay, is House of Cards a television show?
Oh, it's a great one.
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Steve, you probably would like it
You
too.
would
It's
love
a
it.
political show.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to Netflix, so
Oh,
I'm
it's
the one
$8
guy
a
who
month,
doesn't.
man. So you can
It
handle
won
$8
like
a month.
a boatload of Emmys in the past 3 years.
So Kevin Spacey is a politician, and he's a class A asshole, and his wife is Jenny from Forrest Gump, as well as the princess in The Princess Bride. So
Right.
a lot of people didn't realize that's her. And Kate Mara's in it, and she gets naked a ton if you're into
Yeah.
that kind of Kate Mara thing. At any rate, point is it shows lots of the backdoor dealings and backstabbings and, cigar room kind of political workings. I think you'd probably
Basically,
like it,
it's
Steve. You'd enjoy
Machiavelli's
it.
The Prince set in Washington, D.C.
Okay, well, if I ever decide to throw my money away on Netflix, I will watch it.
Yeah.
I don't
You
know.
may as well.
I'll pass.
What else?
Do I sound excited about that?
You
no.
sound thrilled, Steve.
Anyway, but point is, Baller. If you're a football fan, Ballers is a
Yeah.
football show, and you got to watch it. It seemed like it was okay. It was entertainment. It looks like one of those shows where there's going to be lots of cameos because Desean Jackson was not the only cameo. There was a whole
Yeah.
bunch of other
Yeah.
cameos on that show. And
We'll
The
see.
Rock, I
It's
think, will carry it.
I always say I give a show 3 episodes before I really decide if I'm going to stick with it.
It actually brings the premise of it though comes back to an issue we were talking about. Was it last week with the finances and everything? I think it was the last week's episode, right? Mm-hmm. Because sort of the premise of this show is that The Rock is a former football player and he's become a financial manager now. And
Yeah.
the focus of the first episode basically was all these football players throwing away their money unnecessarily, which brings us back to what we talked about last week. What do these teams do? And in this show, Ballers, the answer is The Rock, apparently.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
You
No,
know,
last week
to
we were
The
talking
Rock.
about. I wasn't going to go there. Last week we were talking about Clinton Portis, who blew all his cash, and so I
Right.
haven't seen Ballers because I haven't thrown my money away on televisions and HBO when I can get Netflix for $8. So. But maybe I'll throw $100-something into getting a
Well,
big kid.
it's
HBO.
more
You
like
can just get
$300,
that
Kelly.
streaming now.
That's better. $300. That's way better than $8. You're right. You crushed
Kelly,
me.
you can get HBO streaming for like $15 a month.
Yeah, I might do that.
Because I've got, it's just incredible. We've got, 3 or 4 cable boxes and a bunch of big TVs, and it just. I remember when cable was like $40 a month, and now it's, I just shudder every time the bill comes in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we've deviated
exhausted
a
Ballers.
little far. we have a tendency sometimes to go a little bit off track on the hog sty. We're sort of outside.
Tangerines
of the hog
are my
sty.
favorite fruit.
We're now out.
Well, you forgot.
in the hog pasture.
Hey, you guys know that Jim Haslett got a new job this week. Did you hear this?
Yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned that in the
That was
in the
announced.
headlines.
I
really
slept
want
through the headline. Sorry,
I
Kelly.
really want my Owls to play Penn State now because I actually think they'll have a shot.
Yeah, so he's
My question
gone
is-
over to the Penn State Nittany Lions, and he's a football consultant. He's not a coordinator. He's not a coach. He's just kind of hanging around, which is a
What does
problem
that
at Penn
mean?
State.
Yeah, what does the title football consultant mean to anybody?
Well, I think they're hesitant to call anybody a defensive coordinator there after the last guy.
Yep.
So,
maybe he can be the linebackers coach. How about that? There was a certain gentleman who was the former linebackers coach who got in a little bit of trouble at Penn State. Maybe Jim Haslett doesn't want to follow in these Sandusky footsteps.
I thought he was the defensive coordinator.
Isn't he the voice of the Ravens now?
Yeah.
Who?
Oh wait, that's just the same name.
Whoa.
I'm kidding.
guys with the same name.
Okay,
Yeah.
that went totally over
Really?
my head. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Jerry Sandusky, the voice of the Ravens,
Yeah.
his name is spelled with a G instead of a J.
Oh my!
It's almost like thered be 2 Robbie
poor
Duncans
guy.
out there on Kelly's Facebook page.
Funny story. I was chatting on Facebook. Some guy named Robbie Duncan gets up all in my grill about something, and we're going back and forth a little bit. And I realize it's not the same Robbie Duncan as our Robbie Duncan, who I am friends with on and off of Facebook, but some other guy who happens to be named Robbie Duncan just give me a world of shit.
I think it was ROBBY.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
See,
I
you could
spells
avoid all
Robbie that
that.
way.
You know what, though? He turned out to be a pretty nice guy. We didn't agree on things, but we came to an amicable reconciliation, resolution to the discussion.
See, you can avoid all of that by
mute
just
anybody.
You can avoid all that by just staying off Facebook, like I do. You just don't do Facebook.
Here's the plan. Here's the plan. If you're in the Steve house, don't use Netflix. Don't use Facebook.
Check.
Use
Yes,
your phone
yes.
as your internet.
No
source.
electricity, just oil lamps.
Oil lamps. ride a horse to work.
But
When's the milk delivery?
So, Steve, if
milkman.
you don't use Facebook, then how are you going to comment on our new comment sections on all our blog posts?
I'll just write my own blog post, actually. How about that? And I'm going to pound it out on my desktop computer.
Right, but then when somebody gets on and starts making fun of you, then you won't be able to
He'll sign off with every blog post saying na 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 na.
He's gonna jump on that PCXT clone and start raising hell.
Hey, you know what? If they want to comment, I'm all for it. You agree, disagree, it's fine with me. I'm not going to argue with you on Facebook. That's just
I'll comment on your behalf, Steve.
Yeah, you may have to.
For folks who don't know, Steve, we all met by being frequenters of the Washington Post, the insider section, and often, particularly in the doldrums of summer when there is jack all to talk about, we'd tend to dip into political discussions or cultural discussions or any kind of anything to keep us entertained. And usually, what keeps us entertained is fighting. So we do a lot of fighting on this blog, and Steve is often the lone voice of conservative thought and wisdom, and he brings a lot of insight, which everybody mocks and laughs at, and yells at. So Steve is definitely.
He's not the lone voice.
Well,
he's
the lone sane voice.
4 or 5.
I'm the loudest voice.
You're the loudest voice, yes,
and the most respectful too. Actually,
yeah,
most of the time.
Yeah,
I try.
You do a fantastic job.
Yeah, there are some people who really like to get personal really quickly there.
Yeah.
FBI. Excuse me.
Sorry about the cough there, Robbie.
Listen, let's bring this back together a little bit. We've still got more football to talk about. We're not done yet. You guys aren't off the hook. I've got a beer, but you guys can't have one.
I've had a couple Sazeracs, so I've got your beer beat.
I don't even know what the hell a Sazerac is. Is that like a Sasquatch?
A Sazerac is whiskey, absinthe, and bitters.
A Sazerac sounds like one of the European NBA players coming over.
Well, it is from Europe.
Sounds like a Star Trek.
Did he get drafted by the Knicks?
He got drafted by the Knicks. 7'9", Willie Sazerac.
7'9", 140 pounds. Did you guys see this guy that the Knicks drafted? He's a guy.
They were pissed.
Porzinskis, I think his name was. He's 7'2". He's like a $180 or something. He's an absolute string bean. And the New York Knicks fans did the normal New York Knicks thing and booed him mercilessly.
Sure, boy, Knicks. There you go.
Welcome to New York.
Poor guy.
We hate you.
That's
Welcome
how you're
going to
win.
Excellent.
New York fans just love booing.
New York fans, Philly fans love booing. We all, who knew that they had the right line on McNabb so early in his career? He seemed to have everybody fooled for a while until he put on the burgundy and gold and started digging trenches with footballs.
On a totally random note, you mentioned Charles Mann in your headlines. I just wanted to toss my congratulations to him. I think that's really a good thing that he earned his degree. I was fortunate enough to meet Charles Mann once. He was a very, very nice guy, very polished, very professional. I have a lot of respect for him as a result of that meeting. But it's inspiring to see someone at his age and his level of accomplishments in life go back and finish a degree. I think that's a model that everybody could follow.
You're never too old to go back. It's tough. I know because my wife just went back to finally get her degree 4 years ago.
You can't be too late.
That was the plan. That was the plan all along.
Nice. So,
I'm going to get my master's.
In communication. Excellent.
I'm going to get my PhD.
Big congratulations to Charles Mann. He's an excellent guy, good character, apparently inspired by his daughter to go ahead and get his degree. I'm glad that he did. let's talk a little bit about some of today's defensive linemen. We had Charles Mann. I think we mentioned a bunch of great defensive linemen that we had back in the 80s. They really defined the way that we played defense. We have had pretty much a terrible defensive line for quite some time, for a long time here in Washington.
It's been stopgap after stopgap after stopgap.
And the last thing that they've ever done is stop anyone in the gap. So the irony is unbelievable, as it turns out. But now we have Scott McCloughan. He has come through and put down. I'm getting messages that are confusing and conflicting me. Scott McCloughan's come in. He's brought in a whole bunch of defensive players, mostly on the defensive line. And we have our own Robbie Duncan here to break down the defensive line as it stands today. What do you got, Robbie?
The Redskins Position Group Breakdown.
All right, so with this D-line that we have put together through the magical process of free agency, we are now looking about a pretty solid defensive line. I mean, it definitely is younger than it used to be, and it has a pretty good just talent overall that compared to what we've had. And it on paper, it's a very, very promising bunch. You know, we got obviously pot roast Terrence Knighton as our starting nose guard, a guy that actually wants to play nose guard, and who's really good at it and is, you know, a beast. So that's a good thing. We also have Chris Baker, Swaggy, of course, who's kind of our blue collar, do it all on the D line. You know, make plays. He works really hard.
And they went to high school together, didn't they?
They did. They went to high school together and split up in college, and now they've come full circle.
Old friends.
To the Redskins. And then following them, we have two other free agency acquisitions in Stephen Paya. He came from Chicago. And then we also have Ricky Jean Francois. He was a LSU grad, and he played with the 49ers for a while. And he's basically going to be one of our key rotation guys. Along with them, we got some regulars that have been here. You know, along with Chris Baker, we have Kedrick Golston, who's still, you know, he's like a cockroach you can't get rid of.
Right.
Death, just like Reed Doughty was for the safety group. It's death, taxes, and Kedrick Golston.
Christ, if we still had Doughty, though. Hang on to Golston.
And then we also have Frank Kurse, who is a no-name blue-collar guy that we had last season who did surprisingly really well when he got his opportunity.
Yeah, and so I guess our starters are going to be Paya, Knighton, and Hatcher at the two defensive ends, Knighton at nose tackle.
I forgot to mention Hatcher.
Yeah, Hatcher's kind of a big deal. You know, he's got a big contract. He's old. But let's start with Paya. I didn't realize this. Paya is a heck of an athlete. You know, he's 6'1", 300 pounds. He's born in Auckland, New Zealand. Who knew? Who knew that? But are you all ready for this? He did 49 bench press reps at the combine, which is only two shy of the all-time record. He had a 38.5-inch vertical leap. This is a guy who's 300 pounds. This guy's got a heck of a lot of athletic ability inside him, obviously, especially for being that big. 94 tackles, 12 sacks. During his time in the NFL, he's only 27 years old. And remember what we said in our very first episode. He's got a big 4-year contract with us, so he's going to be our permanent guy. Here. He's a little short. It seems to me maybe to be a 3-4 defensive end.
Stout.
Yeah, he's kind of stout, but he's got a lot of size to him. He's a rugby player. But Paya, his athletic ability is just off the charts for that, and I think that they're looking forward. They're looking to him to do a lot for us.
Does that worry anybody though? All right, he's big. I get that. He's very strong. He can jump high. He can run fast. He's an athlete, and that's great. He's 27 years old.
Yeah. His
last team didn't bring him back. He's just signed a 4-year contract with us and has basically nothing to play for. Does this scare anybody? You've got, I get that he's a big athlete, but if he was, you look for that in a rookie, right? You look for that at the combine. When you have that in a guy who isn't, I don't know. I'm a little concerned about
we
that.
Redskin fans have been hurt, and we're afraid to get hurt again.
I'm a dog that's been kicked in the teeth way too often.
Well, Robbie, can tell us. Tell us, Robbie, give us some specific examples, if you will, some X's and O's type talk about what we need to expect from a defensive end in a 3-4 setup.
Defensive end, it depends really on the style, because some guys like to say, our 3-4 is very attacking. We like to get everybody upfield, one gap, two gap, whatever.
Right. We're going to a one gap now, so that's a big thing.
Yeah, we will be one gap, so he's just going to tell Paya and Hatcher both to just attack that gap and dominate that gap and get into the backfield. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Hatcher's not as strong as Paya is. He's very elusive and great at shedding blocks to get in the backfield, especially if he's given a one-on-one situation. But Paya, he's just going to bulldoze guys. He's just so strong, and he very good when he gets his hands on guys. He just kind of tosses them off. So it's hard. It's really hard not to sip the Kool-Aid with this D line, in my opinion.
Sure.
But I will start chugging once preseason starts, and I see Paya just bulldozing offensive linemen to the backfield.
Sure.
I want to see him working hard.
We all feel at least better now, I'm sure, than we did last year with the D line.
Yes.
I mean, we got 5 guys who can all play, and some of them might even play very well. So that's a good bit of news. I'm more curious about what Ricky Jean-Francois' job is going to be in this. Is he going to be an every down guy,
He's
or
a chef.
Is he really a role player?
I think he's basically Francois was basically our answer for losing Jarvis Jenkins. Mm-hmm. They're not dynamic, and he's not gonna make a lot of plays for you, but he does his job, and he does it well. He doesn't really make a lot of mistakes, but he doesn't also make a lot of big plays. So it's just he'll probably start if someone gets hurt, but not after. He won't be on there before Chris Baker, though.
Sure.
Yeah, he's 6'3", 297. He was a 7th round pick back in 2009. He's got 96 tackles in his career, 8.5 sacks. He's on a 3-year, $9 million contract, so I think he's projected to be kind of our permanent kind of long-term rotation guy. He's started some games over his career. I think you're right in that his career arc just does not project as a starter. His career arc projects as a depth guy more than anything. I think he's a solid player, but I don't think we need to expect Pro Bowl caliber play out of Ricky Jean-Francois.
No.
Alex?
Well, the one thing that has concerned me about the line, again, we're not addressing the defensive line through the draft. And it's all free agents. So that to me means, okay, we have a 3-year window with these guys, then we got to find a new crop of linemen to go through.
Okay, well, let's talk about this. That's a good point. McLuhan signed Paya. He signed Knighton. Remember, Knighton's on a 1-year contract.
Sure.
He's kind of on a tryout. Knighton, is the prototypical nose tackle. He's 6'3", 230, Temple grad, as you know. He's not an elite athlete, but he's got some athletic ability. He's got a 28-inch vertical leap. If you can imagine a guy like Terrence Knighton jumping 28 inches into the air, that just sounds incredible to me. Serious. And I hear something I didn't know. He had a serious eye incident in a bar fight. Ended up having eye surgery. Who knew? I didn't realize that.
We like to call that Temple tough.
I think Terrence Knighton has for as good as he is, I think his opinion of himself is stronger than what it sounds like the NFL's opinion of him is. So I definitely think he's going to play all out in an attempt to get a long-term contract from us or someone else next year. But point is, he's on a 1-year deal, and Jason Hatcher is in the 2nd year of a 4-year deal. And I haven't looked at his contract enough to know, but I'm going to guess that the numbers would probably work out with the dead cap, where probably in year 3, I would guess we could probably get rid of him, probably, but don't hold me to that. I'll look that up for next time.
Yeah.
Because Bruce Allen is just not dumb enough to lock us into anybody for 4 years. So
that's been his strong suit as GM.
Hatcher is actually one that scares me most out of all these guys. He's 6'6", 300 pounds. He's 32 years old. He also has a lot of athletic ability. He was a tight end in college for a couple years. He converted to defense. But it's stats that scare me most. He's 2006 draft pick from Dallas. Third round pick. He's got 230 tackles in his career, 32 and a half sacks. But he really only has 1 year where he was elite.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah, 1 year.
Yeah, 2013, he had 34 tackles, 11 sacks that year. The 11 sacks is completely off the charts in terms of what his career arc is. He was a 4 to 5 sack a year guy every year of his career, but that 1 year in Dallas. And it seems to me that we signed Jason Hatcher to sort of be the guy he was in 2013, but that's just not what his career arc really went. And so I think it's and the other thing about him is he's only played 16 games in 4 different seasons. He's missed a bunch of games for injury. He's kind of a 13 game a year type guy.
Right.
That's sort of what he's kind of averaging along. And so what I don't think it's realistic for anyone to expect Hatcher to have 11 sacks again.
Well,
he may be a solid player, and give him a couple more years, and I think Hatcher will be gone. And so I didn't mean to cut you off, Kelly, but
right.
I think, I think we have our group here, but it's maybe a kind of a 2-year thing, and it gives us a chance to draft other folks and develop them with the goal of 3 years from now, kind of replacing him.
Right.
That's where I think the starters are going.
So here's my thing. So Hatcher did have 1 big year in Dallas. He got 11 sacks. That was a really good number of sacks. And we're happy with that. I think one of the reasons why I like the body of Paella and the size of Hatcher is because I think in our system, and I don't know our system, right? Because we have a whole new defensive coordinator. We've got new everybody's. I don't know our defensive system. I won't know it until midway through the season. I think that what we're trying to do is use our defensive line to open up our linebackers to get to the quarterback. I think that's the name of the game, right? We have Kerrigan. He put up some pretty good sack numbers last year. We just drafted another guy who's known for getting at the quarterback. I think that our pressure is coming off the edges. I think and then we're looking at guys like Knighton to stop the flow up the middle. But I think that our 3-4 this year, I think the defensive end's role is going to be to occupy bodies, get that get a hand on the tight end, keep the tackle occupied, and try to get us in situations where our outside linebackers looking at a one-on-one, against maybe somebody weak. That's who.
Yes.
And I'd just like to throw in Frank Kurse. I mean, Robbie, you mentioned him. I was impressed by the playing time he had last year. It looked like he was a high-effort guy. He got some results. He made a few good plays. It seems to me that, if he keeps that up, he's probably going to be our backup defensive end, over some of these younger kids, because there's a couple more guys on the roster that are buried there, too.
I feel like he's a better natural pass rusher than Chris Baker or some of the other guys.
Well, definitely, but Chris Baker really is. His body type is really that of a nose tackle.
Oh yeah.
Chris Baker's 6'2",
his body type is that of a
325.
hippopotamus. He has an ass the size of Montana. That guy. He's got. I guess we call it a motor, right? He's got a motor the size of Montana. Frank
Kurse is.
Imagine if he was a Kardashian.
He's a male version of a Kardashian. Is that what you're saying?
No.
In terms of butt size.
Well,
we definitely have the guys now to have like a really big set of guys in there on the line at some point. If Pot Roast is really going to be around 370, and that's what he came into camp at.
Did he really come in at 370?
Yeah. And then you could have 2 guys potentially on either side of him who are in the 320 range.
370
That is a
pounds.
lot of beef.
Yeah, that is a lot of beef.
How big was
Ask Vince Wolfark how much he weighs. I guarantee he weighs more than 370.
Because he's listed at 330. Roughly.
Yeah. What guys are listed at has always been a lie. That's kind of
Refrigerator
I can tell you
Perry,
one thing.
Refrigerator Perry was 335 pounds.
Yeah.
What's that, Robbie?
I was going to say, I can tell you one thing. I was just hanging out last night with my buddy that's with the Bills. He came down for the weekend to be at the college at ODU and all that, and he is a solid 330 pounds, but you would not know it by looking at him. The dude's all muscle. So, I mean, it might just be different body types, but you can't tell me that Pot Roast and Vince Wilfork, by looking at them and listing them at 330, that's accurate.
So are you saying that you think they might be both pushing the 400 mark and the NFL's afraid to admit that there are 400-pound men on the field?
I think so. I mean, I can believe that Terrence Knighton's actually just about around 370, like you said, but Vince Wilfork only being 330,
that's not happening.
I'm not convinced.
It doesn't look like it.
He does look like he's, the photos we got from the OTAs, it looked like Knighton just dwarfed even the other defensive linemen in size. So maybe you guys are right. I mean,
but Robbie, you got to know better than us. I mean, fat and muscle look very different and weigh you down in different ways. So,
and certainly
I have
Knighton
a
is
friend
a lot of
who
fat.
I always thought he was around, 280, and then he recently admitted that he was much, much heavier than that. And I mean, but apparently it's because it's a lot of muscle.
Is this guy an athlete, Alex?
No, this guy has arthritis in both knees.
Oh, yeah. Has everybody heard the story of, I know you guys have, but for the audience, the funny story about how he got the name Pot Roast? Have we all heard this? He was on the team plane in Jackson, when he played with Jacksonville, and the flight attendants coming down the aisle going, anybody want food, anybody want dinner, and nobody did, and so he spoke up because she said they had pot roast and they had a couple other choices, and nobody spoke up, so he raised his hand and said, well, I'll take some pot roast, and one of his teammates heard that, and ever since then he's been pot roast.
That'll do it.
That's why you never order anything on a plane.
It's an awesome name.
Yeah,
it is.
But it looks like he's hiding a pot roast or 10 in his belly, under his uniform, perhaps. Kedrick Golston. I think Kedrick Golston may be our longest tenured Redskin.
Yeah, I just don't know if he'll make the team at this point. You've got too many guys on the defensive line, and you got a lot of younger guys who probably need to be kept around.
Maybe so. He's a 10-year vet at this point. He's carved himself out a good career. He's been at one team for his entire career. How often does that happen for a backup defensive lineman? So hey, I admire him. A couple other names of guys on the roster you may or may not seen. Travian Robertson.
Camp fodder.
Camp fodder. Jarrett Poe.
Camp fodder.
Robert Thomas was a nose tackle on the practice squad. He may be a practice squatter out there. Camp fodder.
Hey, didn't we have somebody's kid? Oh, I'm thinking of Jeff Cope, but he's a linebacker, isn't he?
Corey Crawford, who I guess he's an undrafted free agent we signed. There's another name. Let's all say it together now. 1, 2, 3.
Camp fodder.
That's right. But that's what we're seeing. So I think the realistic rotation is Paya, Knight, and Hatcher starting. Francois, Baker, and Kurse are the backups, and then they may carry 7 of them total. What do you think, Robbie?
I don't know.
Let's wrap up with this. This will be a little interesting and fun. We kind of just predict who on the defensive line makes the roster and who's going to be that 6 or 7. I will start. I'll say it's going to be obviously Hatcher, Paya, Knighton, Baker, Francois, and then after that, it depends, I guess. I mean, I would probably say Frank Kurse, if unless there's someone else I'm missing.
Well, let's talk about how many defensive linemen are they going to carry at all? Is it going to be 7?
Then let's say 6.
I think.
Yeah, I'm going to assume 6.
6.
Let's say 6. So if my 6th guy, I'm going to say is Frank Kurse.
I think I'm pretty much in agreement with you. I don't see Kedrick Golston staying on the team. Age and stuff. I go those exact same people. that exact same group of 6.
What do you think, Kelly?
Well, I don't want to say the same people, even though that was sort of what I was thinking.
To.
Here's what I'm going to... No, I'm not. I'm going to say it's not going to be Frank Kurse. It's going to be one of these mystery guys that we just said can't fodder about, but I don't know which one.
Okay, well, I'll throw the mystery candidate out there for you. Frankly, I think my official guess, by the way, are the same 6. Pia Nightenhatcher, Francois Baker,
Ricky Jean.
And probably Kurse, just because I was impressed with the way Kurse played. But I think the dark horse here may be Travian Robertson because he played with Seattle last year. And so this is a guy that McGloin may know about, and so the team may have seen something that just we fans, the unofficial source of Redskin news does not have access to practice film. We don't really know much about Travian Robertson, but if he played with Seattle, I gotta say he's got at least a shot. And I also think one or two of these guys are going to be on the practice squad.
Seattle,
oh sure,
Seattle is to Scott McGloin as Oregon is to Chip Kelly.
Right.
And as Tampa is to Bruce Allen.
And as Tampa is to Bruce Allen. All right, well, listen.
The Tampa connection.
I would much rather the Seattle connection than the Tampa connection.
If you're going to pick one,
seriously.
If you're going to pick one, you pick Seattle. Listen.
Yeah, because who wants, if you're going to pick a team to model, I don't know why anybody's going to model Tampa. It's kind of like if you want to be a rock band, you could be Led Zeppelin or you could be Spinal Tap. I'm going to pick Led Zeppelin.
I'll pick Zeppelin.
I'm going to pick Spinal Tap because it's a hilarious movie.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
This one goes to 11.
All right, let's end it there and wrap it up. Listen, we really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. We really love to get your feedback. Come visit us at thehogsty.com. You can also catch us on Twitter at thehogsty, and we have a page up on Facebook. It's facebook.com/hail to the hogs. Really appreciate you, and we really miss having Sean around because this isn't easy. We just had the rare moment where all 4 of us spoke at the same time. That was pretty cool. Not bad, guys. That's hard to plan.